Hey everyone, it's Bree here at Blossom and Branch Farm, and today I'm going to talk about garden planning with you. Now, it is January 25th, and while it may seem a little bit early, it's actually not too early to start planning because a lot of the seeds that we start here at the farm actually have already needed to be started, such as our Lisianthus. You might have seen my video from a few weeks back where I talked about my binder system, my calendar, and how I organize for seed starting, but today I'm going to be trying something new. So while I do like my system because I am a hands-on person and I like having a calendar in front of me that I can access in the garden, there are also times when it can be really helpful to have an online organizer. So I've been playing with this program and it's called Seedtime. So today I'm gonna play with it. I just got a bunch of my seeds. So usually how I start in the spring is I grab a seed catalog. Johnny's is typically my go-to for looking at seeds, and I go through and I look at all the seeds I want to start, and then I also go through last year's garden. So I'll look at pictures on my phone and kind of think of, okay, here are some things that I really loved growing. Here are some things that maybe I didn't love growing or I didn't actually end up using that much. So I start from there and then I work my way into, okay, here are the seeds that I want to order for the coming year. I always tend to over order seeds. It's just something that I do. I just store them cold and then I can always reuse them for next year if I don't end up starting them, but I have a bit of a seed problem. Let me know if you're the same. So what I've done is I've gone through and I've sorted my seeds. So what I like to do is I like to sort my seeds by what kind of seed they are. So here I have sorted into all my direct sow items. So these are all seeds that I know I will be direct sowing. How do I know that? A combination of experience and also looking at the seed packets. So this is why I like to use Johnny Seeds. I'm not affiliated with them at all. I don't count on affiliate income. I don't rely on affiliate income. So I really don't care if you use any of these products or not. Whenever I tell you that I'm using a product, it's because it's one that I actually use. It's not because they paid me. So anywho, here we are, Johnny's. Johnny's are all the ones that I've used here. I just like Johnny's because they have a lot of variety on their website, and I've also had really good germination with them over the years. And also I can get them in either large or small quantities. So I just like having a one-stop shop for all my seeds. That being said, they don't carry a great variety of natives. So for my native plants, I usually go to Prairie Moon Nursery, Prairie Nursery, or there's High Country Gardens. But if you're looking for natives, try to find a seed company that is close to you. For my flowers and my veggies, usually it's Johnny's. So what I've done here is I've separated out, so here are all my zinnias. These are all direct sow for me. All of my squashes, black futsu, butternut winter squash, another butternut squash. I love butternut squash. They're one of my favorite squashes. Several pumpkins for the pumpkin alley. Some zucchini I direct sow, all my squashes and pumpkins I direct sow, all of them. I just find they do a lot better. Carrots, more pumpkins, cucumbers I direct sow, and beans I direct sow. I also direct sow sunflowers, but I usually get those from Sunflower Steve. So I've separated those out, and then I've also grabbed all of the ones that I'm gonna need to be starting from seed. Now this isn't an inclusive list of everything that I'm gonna be starting from seed, but for the purposes of today's video, I'm going to go through these seeds that I ordered. So here I have Snapdragons Madame Butterfly Bronze with white, one of my favorite Snapdragon colors. I have several Strawflowers, Silvery Rose, Bright Rose, and Vintage White. These make great dried flowers, and I really like to use them for Valentine's Day bouquets. So if you're a market farmer and you're looking to get into Valentine's Day bouquets, dried Strawflower in pink colors can be a great option. Shishito peppers, my favorite pepper. I have my onions, which I need to start soon. I do yellow onions and red onions. I'm doing onions that are good for storage because I love growing my own onions and then storing them for the winter. I have been able to do this for the last 2 years where I grow all of my own onions and I don't have to buy onions again, usually until late spring, early summer, before my next crop comes in. So love growing onions from seed, very economical to do that. And then my Sun Gold tomatoes. So while I am growing things aside from this, such as sweet peas, I'm growing a lot of different varieties of various things. For the purposes of today and looking at Seedtime as a program for seed starting, I'm going to be just using the ones I'm starting from seed and transplanting, and then I'll use a couple direct sow. I've tried various seed timing organizers in the past before, and they have all been so clunky for me to use in the past that I just have never really consistently used them. And not to say that I'm going to exclusively be using Seedtime either. In fact, I think what I'm going to end up doing is a hybrid of Seedtime, my calendar, still using physical journal, because I just do best when I have something on hand and I can write it down as I'm in the garden. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna end up incorporating Seedtime with my journaling. What I am using Seedtime for, and has been a lifesaver for me, especially this week, as we are crazy busy with my homeschooling, with filming, editing videos, with planning our new cottage garden, all of this stuff, our house renovations. I have been so busy and I've been panicking because I felt like I haven't had time to do my planning of when I'm gonna be starting all my seeds. So I've been worrying that I'm missing windows. So this week I jumped on Seedtime and I plugged in everything, and I was able to get very quickly, okay, here's exactly the calendar of when I'm gonna be starting everything. So let me show you how I did it. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've logged into my Seedtime, and I'm going to start a new garden. So I've just gone over here to my garden, clicked add calendar, and then I can put in all the information for my garden. So I'm going to put in 2024 garden. Now you could do this by bed, even you could divide it like raised bed 1, raised bed 2, raised bed 3. I just want to use it right now for getting my seed starting schedule. So I'm just going to pop everything in here really quickly. So once I've done that, I'm going to put in my zip code. That's going to give us, and by putting in my zip code, that's going to tell us when our last frost date is. And that'll give us also our growing zone 6A and our garden frost dates. So it'll give us our average last frost. Now we can also manually change these dates. So for example, if I know that my last frost tends to be a little bit later, so for example, I usually actually use a little later than they've recommended here. They're saying May 8th. I could go off of May 8th, but I know that sometimes we get late frost. So I actually do a later frost date because I don't want to have to worry about putting frost fabric over things. So I usually go May 15th as my last frost. So I've set May 15th, and my average first frost is actually maybe a little bit later. I have a little bit of a microclimate. So usually I'm looking actually at about the 5th. And then you can go through settings here, like, do you want to have crop warnings? Sure, I'll just keep all of this. They have this winter gardening algorithm down here, and you can do this if you have covers or if you're going to be using covers. So I'm going to toggle this on because I do have frost fabric that I can use. So that will give me the option of saying that, okay, I have frost fabric I'm planning to use for this crop, which will let me bump my dates up according to my last frost, according to whether I'm using no frost fabric, 1 layer or 2 layers. And now I'm going to start plugging in my seeds. So I'm just going to go through my seeds and I'm going to add crops. So just pop over here. We'll start with the Snapdragon. So crop category, type in Snapdragon, and then from there I can pick what variety. And this is actually important, particularly with Snapdragons, because different varieties bloom at different times. So a group 1-2 is going to, a group 1-2 Snapdragon is going to bloom really early, where a group 3-4 is going to be more acclimated to long, hot days and will bloom later. So I do want to make sure I put in what type of variety, and you could put an additional label on there if you wanted, like I'm putting this in a raised bed, or I'll put field because I'm putting these in my field. Advanced settings you can change. So this is one thing where I have been going in on this because I know that for myself, I usually actually start my Snapdragons before this. So this says seeding date is recommended 6 weeks before last frost. For me, I know that I can actually plant out my Snapdragons about 4 weeks before last frost. They are cold hardy and cold tolerant. And I know that also based off of the packet. So some of this, I will say, some of Seedtime does require that you have a little bit of either knowledge of things you're planting, and say you're a gardener and you know, okay, for example, like I know that my last frost is actually usually a little bit later. But even just from looking at the seed packet from Johnny's, it will actually tell me to sow into a container 8 to 10 weeks before last frost. So I'm going to go ahead and change this date because I know that I plant them 4 weeks before last frost. I'm going to actually start these 12 weeks before my last frost. And it does help to do a little bit of research or grab seeds from a reputable source that gives you this information so that you can reference it as you're putting them in. So I'm just changing that to 12 weeks before last frost because I plant them a little bit before last frost, and I know that they're a little bit slow, at least for me. I've got those in. I'm going to click it as transplant. There's also a direct seed option. And then you can also put in spacing. So I'm going to go ahead and do this just for when I go to plan and lay out my beds so that I know how many I need to start. So I usually do my snapdragons at a 6-inch spacing. So I'll put that in there just because I plant everything tighter than recommended. I really like to push it. And then now down here we have winter gardening options. So like we said, we have the option of saying, okay, we have covers or we have one cover. So I'm going to say, okay, I have one cover. I actually do have two, so I could do a combination of 2 frost fabrics. So that'll also bump up when I can plant those. And that will populate into my calendar when I need to start seeding these, which is coming up here February 21st, when I need to start preparing my bed here in April, when I want to transplant them, because as you recall, I said that I could transplant these out early. And then it'll tell me when I can start harvesting. So this is really great for crop planning. It will tell me, okay, I can start harvesting these snapdragons at about July 20th. So I know if I have booked some weddings or if I want to have an event, then I can plan to have snapdragons right about at the end of July. So let's go ahead and pop through. We're going to go through all of my seeds here and we're going to put them all in. So the next one I'm going to put in is going to be my Strawflower. Now I'm not going to break these ones down by color because all the Strawflowers will get started at the same time. So this is optional. I'm not going to put that in. I'll put that they're going in the field and I'm going to put the color as pink because most of them are pink. Advanced settings, I'll check my seed packet now for Strawflower. It's saying 3 to 5 weeks before last frost, so 4 weeks before is pretty accurate. The Strawflower are a little bit cold tolerant, so I might plant them out a week before last frost if I can, just because it saves me some work. Usually I'm direct sowing everything right at last frost. That can get a little bit busy and crazy, so the more I can plant out just a little bit before that last frost, the better. So I'm actually going to say I can start these 6 weeks before because I'll probably plant them out a week before last frost. So 6 weeks, and then I am going to transplant those. I'm going to put in my spacing. I do 9 inches for these. Again, I do a tighter spacing than recommended. And sure, I will say I have a cover. And schedule. Next up, my onions. Onions are so underrated in the garden, and I like to buy them. This is so economical. As an interplanting crop, onions and alliums can be deterrents for some pests, so I like to interplant my onions with a lot of different things. We interplant them with roses, I interplant them with strawberries, so I like to have a lot of them. So I start 2 full packets every year, and these are Johnny's packets, so they contain about 250 seeds, 500 onions I'm holding right here, and the cost is around $7 for all of these seeds, so very economical. For now, I'm just going to put them into the program. I'm going to say exactly what variety. Let's see if they have them. I'm starting Patterson. Oh, yep, they do, which is good because that means that they're accounting for the day length and when they're going to be harvestable. So I've got my Pattersons, and perfect. So those are already set to 13 weeks before last frost. That's when I need to start them. I'll schedule that. And I'm also going to put in my other onions just in case that start date is different. The other onions that I'm growing this year are the red wings, which are another good storage onion. "13 weeks, perfect. Okay, so we'll just pop both of those in there. And now we know that we need to start seeding those right around Valentine's Day. Perfect. And the last one I'm going to do is my direct sow. So let's see what that looks like. We're going to pop into Zena. And we'll just put in my go-to. My favorite is Queen Lime Red. And I'm going to direct seed these ones. So anything I'm going to be direct seeding, I'm going to put that in here. So why this is helpful is even though I know that I'm direct seeding these, so I don't have to be thinking about when my seed start date is, it is helpful because I'll know, okay, here's about when I can start to expect my first zinnias. So if you're someone who's, for example, planning to start your own cut flowers or growing them for your own wedding, you can do this and say, okay, I'm gonna have these flowers by this date. All right, so we've got direct seed. Plant spacing, I actually do 9 inches because I'm crazy, because I'm a rebel. Succession spacing. Now I do succession plant my zinnias every 4 weeks. Seeding date, 4 weeks before last frost now. So I always do these actually a little bit after last frost. So let's do 1 week after last frost because I know I like my soil to be very warm. It's just something that I find works better for my zinnias. So I'll do 1 week after my last frost. Let's go ahead and change that, update. And that's gonna push those back to here. So then I know, okay, I'm gonna be getting my beds ready for everything I'm direct sowing here in May. All of our seeding dates here are shown, all of our bed preparation dates are shown, and we can actually toggle what we wanna see. So for example, I've hidden my cultivating, which is also weeding, right? I've hidden that because I just kind of weed as I go. But if I show that, it'll tell us, and this is helpful if you're a market farmer, okay? If you're doing big production scale, it can be helpful to say to your staff, okay, this is the week we're, for example, cultivating our pepper beds. But for me, I just pretty much weed as I go. So I don't want to see all of those dates. I'm going to take that one off. But I do want to see the dates that I'm seeding, the dates that I'm preparing the beds, and the dates that I'm transplanting and harvesting. So here we have all of that information here in one calendar. Now I can also add a custom crop. So let's say I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna put my dahlias in here. Well, dahlias aren't actually in here yet. Seedtime, it looks like they're still building out a lot of these things, but let's say I'm gonna grow dahlias. So I'm gonna say that these are cafe au lait because they're very popular. And I'm gonna say those are going in the field. And then I would have to look up, for example, that I'm going to be planting these at last frost. And I'm going to be doing direct seed, that these are warm season. And then I can also put in what my days to maturity are. So I can pop in here and go dahlia days to maturity. And now they're all a little bit different, but on average 90 days after planting. So let's go ahead and pop back over and put that in. So our days to maturity, our plant spacing is about 12 inches for dahlias, and our days to maturity is 90 days from seeding. You can always go and look this stuff up. I recommend using the Johnny's website. They have tons of information on there. And then we can just harvest until end of season. So schedule that. So we're gonna prep our dahlia beds here in May, around May 8th. We'll plant them out around May 15th, and then we'll start harvesting our dahlias toward the end of August, mid to end of August, and that's pretty accurate for my zone. So now I can look at this and say, all right, I have a wedding in August. Let's say it's August 25th, August 24th. Then I can look at this and I can say, okay, I'll have dahlias and I'll have my queen lime red. Now, obviously these aren't the only things that I'll have growing in the field, but it gives me a good idea of what's going to be blooming when. It gives me a good idea of when I can seed everything. So again, for that only taking me less than 15 minutes, it gave me a really quick calculation of when I need to start everything. Now I am still going to be incorporating my binder into all of this. So if you want to learn more about all of that organizing, pop back over to our seed organizing video. I'll link it here at the end of this one. Anyway, that's just a tool I've been playing with this week. I wanted to share it with you guys because I did find that it had some really helpful attributes when it came to planting, especially in spring when it's still cold outside and there's not a lot to do yet out in the garden if you're in a colder zone like myself. Maybe you've just gotten a giant shipment of seeds and you are overwhelmed and intimidated. This can give you a good jumping off point. So let me know if it's something that you might consider using, and if so, I do have a link for you. The other great thing about this program is it is free to use, and actually this week they are doing an event called Your Best Garden Effort Challenge, where every night they have different speakers. Josh from Nature's Always Right, Cam and Becky Porter are going to be there. So we've got lots of great speakers and they're going to be giving you lots of great information. So sign up for that. I've got the links below. All right guys, that's it for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys around here soon.